So I want you to imagine a tiny, glittering creature that croaks like a frog.
Right.
But the catch is it lives completely underwater.
Which is just wild to even think about.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive into the, honestly, surprisingly dramatic world of hobbyist aquatics.
Yeah, it's a subculture most people never really get to see, but the passion is just, it's off the charts.
Exactly. And today we are looking at a deeply personal, incredibly specific blog post. It's titled The Lure and Lore of the Sparkling Gourami.
Such a great title.
Right. And it was published back on June 18th, 2026 by an author who just goes by Ang. But the thing that really caught my eye right away is the subtitle. It's literally Notes on Fishkeeping, Part 273.
Part 273. I mean, just let the sheer weight of that dedication sink in for a second. That is a massive archive of trial, error, and just, relentless curiosity from a single person.
It's an obsession, and our mission for you listening today is to really use Ang's experience as a case study. We're going to look at persistence, the bizarre biomechanics of miniature anatomy, and really the mysteries of nature.
Yeah, because we're exploring the trials of one hobbyist's quest to successfully keep this alluring little fish, scientifically known as Trichopsis pumilus.
So we're basically stepping right into the shoes of an aquarist who is reading through this vast archive, trying to right a very specific wrong from their past.
Yeah, because the stakes here, emotionally speaking, they're surprisingly high.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Aang admits right at the jump that this is his second attempt. As they put it, many moons ago, they actually acquired a group of these sparkling gourami's for evaluation.
And it did not go well.
No, it ended in tragedy. The fish didn't survive past the 2-week mark.
Which is just heartbreaking. If you've ever tried to keep, say, a delicate houseplant or a really high-maintenance pet, you know that dreaded 2-week window. You bring it home, you try to control the environment, and it fails.
It's awful. You just feel this immense guilt.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I was reading Ang's notes and wondering, why would you willingly subject yourself to that exact heartbreak a second time? You fail, you feel terrible, and normally you just swear off that species forever.
Right, you just walk past that tank at the pet store.
Exactly. But Ang sees them again, and the compulsion just kicks right back in. Ang mentions they were super affordable, and this batch looked really healthy. But, there has to be a deeper reason. Why go back to a species that already broke your heart?
What's fascinating here is the psychological draw of redemption in a hobby.
Redemption.
Yeah, you carry the ghost of that first failure, right?
Yeah.
But you also carry all the knowledge you gained from it. Seeing a healthy, affordable batch of the very fish that defeated you is basically an opportunity to prove that the first time was just a learning curve.
Not like a permanent lack of skill.
Exactly. But to really get why they're so captivating, we got to look at the actual fish. Because a sparkling gourami is not, your standard pet store goldfish.
Oh, not at all. Ang points out that they're a comparatively smaller species, even for gouramists. We are talking like 3 to 4 centimeters long.
Barely an inch and a half. Just tiny.
Yeah, and just to set a baseline for you listening, gouramists belong to this group called labyrinth fish. They have this specialized respiratory organ, the labyrinth organ, that lets them actually gulp air from the surface.
Which is such a crucial adaptation. Labyrinth fish evolved in these shallow, stagnant, oxygen-depleted puddles and rice paddies in Southeast Asia.
So they're used to really gross, murky water.
Oh, totally. Their whole biology is shaped by living in these dense, heavily vegetated environments where visibility is just non-existent.
Right, which perfectly explains how they look.
Yeah.
Ang describes the body as brownish tan. And honestly, a brownish tan 3-centimeter fish sounds incredibly dull, like a muddy pebble or a dead leaf.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a showstopper.
No. But then Ang highlights the big draw. Sitting right there on this muted tan canvas is a single striking iridescent blue eye.
It's brilliant.
Just flashing like a little sapphire.
Well, the contrast is what makes it work so well. The brown body is camouflage, right? If you live in a muddy puddle, blending in is your main defense against predators. But that blue eye, that relies on structural color.
So it's not a pigment.
No, it's actually the physical structure of the cells reflecting specific wavelengths of light. It acts as this highly directional, short-range signal to other gouramis.
Oh, wow.
So when an aquarist is looking into a tank and catches that sudden flash of blue light, it's just intense visual magnetism.
treasure.
Actively search the murky water, and when you finally spot that glowing blue eye, it's a huge reward.
Yeah, it's the literal lure from the post title.
Right, but that brings up an issue. If that visual flash is only good at very close range in a murky puddle, how do they talk to each other across larger distances? Because a tiny blue eye isn't going to grab a mate's attention from like a foot away in the weeds.
And that transition takes us to their most exceptional trait. Because visual signals fail in that environment, evolution had to force a completely different method of communication.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this part of Eng's notes completely stopped me in my tracks. Eng writes that during courtship, these tiny fish produce an audible croaking sound.
Acoustic marvel, honestly.
Right, because when we think of animal sounds, we think of vocal cords pushing air, dogs barking, frogs croaking. But a fish lives underwater and has no vocal cords. So Eng explains they achieve this mechanically by using their pectoral fin tendons.
Yeah, snapping their own tendons.
I mean, I really want to dig into this. How does a paperclip-sized fish make a noise loud enough to travel through water, breach the glass of a tank, and reach a human ear in the living room?
The biomechanics are just staggering when you scale it down. You have to remember, water is roughly 800 times denser than air.
So it's incredibly heavy.
Exactly. Pushing a sound wave through something that dense takes immense mechanical energy. A 3-centimeter fish doesn't have the muscle mass to just push water out of the way. So it uses a mechanism of extreme tension and sudden release.
Kind of like snapping a wet towel.
Or pulling a thick rubber band as tight as it goes and just letting go. They have these specialized muscles attached to the tendons of their pectoral fins. During courtship, the fish stretches those tendons taut over a bony elevation in its body.
Building up all that potential energy.
Right. And when it releases, the tendon snaps back. But, and this is the crazy part, a snapping tendon isn't actually that loud on its own. The fill needs an amplifier.
Oh, the swim bladder. Because inside the fish is this little balloon of gas that helps them float.
Spot on. The tendon snaps directly against, or just right next to, the inflated swim bladder. It acts exactly like the hollow wooden body of an acoustic guitar.
That is insane.
The mechanical snap reverberates through that gas-filled chamber, which amplifies the vibration into a really powerful acoustic wave. It travels out through the dense water, hits the glass, transfers into the air, and you hear it as a distinct croak.
It's an absolute masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. A tiny submerged creature strumming its own internal guitar to sing in the dark.
It really is poetic.
But, and this is the tragic irony of Eng's entire journey, Eng writes, "Unfortunately, till today, I still didn't manage to hear such sound."
Oh, man.
After the failure years ago and all this obsessive research, Eng has never actually heard the croak.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this completely reframes the title of the post. The visual beauty, that blue eye, that's the lure, but the unheard croak, that's the lore.
The mythos of the species.
Exactly. It's the ultimate reward of fish keeping that keeps them hooked.
I do want to push back a little on this concept of the hobby, though. Like, is this sound basically just a mythical status symbol for the fish keeper? Are they essentially chasing a ghost? I mean, if you can't even hear it, why put yourself through the stress?
That's a super fair critique of the culture, honestly. But in advanced aquatic keeping, that croak is so much more than a boast on a forum. It's a biological diagnostic tool.
How so?
Well, this sound is exclusively tied to courtship. A fish is only going to court if it feels totally secure, well-fed, and biologically prompted by its environment.
Ah. So the silence isn't just bad luck. The silence is the fish saying, "I'm stressed, the water's wrong, and I'm just trying to survive right now."
Right. It's the agony of the unheard symphony. The lack of a croak is this glaring reminder that the aquarist hasn't cracked the code yet.
So the glass box might look gorgeous to us, but the fish hates it.
Yeah, hearing the croak means you've successfully replicated a microscopic slice of wild nature. You haven't just kept it alive, you've let it thrive.
Which is the perfect bridge to the huge pivot in Eng's new strategy. Because to finally hear that elusive croak, Eng needs them to survive in court. So to avoid that 2-week death sentence, Eng is abandoning the traditional indoor aquarium completely.
A huge move.
Yeah, and I think we need to talk about the standard glass box for a second, because we totally take it for granted. An indoor tank is built entirely for human observation, right? We put bright lights on it, we filter the water so it's crystal clear.
And we stick it right in the middle of our living rooms, which, from the perspective of a tiny prey fish, is a complete sensory nightmare.
Okay, expand on that. Why is a beautiful glass tank actually terrible for a sparkling gourami?
Think back to those murky puddles they evolved in. They are literally designed to hide in dark, dense weeds. When you drop them in a pristine glass box, they have 360 degrees of visibility. To them, that just means being exposed to predators from every single angle.
They're just naked out there.
Totally. Plus, water transmits vibrations effortlessly, so every time a human walks past the tank on a hardwood floor to the fish, it feels like an earthquake.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that.
And you have the constant mechanical hum of the electric filter. It just creates this baseline of acoustic stress. The whole environment is sterile, loud, and blindingly bright.
Well, no wonder they won't strum their little tendons and sing. They're terrified.
Exactly.
So Aang takes this massive, really risky leap. Instead of an aquarium, Aang takes this new group of 6 gouramis and puts them in an outdoor pond. And Aang specifically notes this is actually a mesh container.
Yeah, out in the elements.
Right. The goal is survival and natural breeding. But here's the detail that caught me. There's no net covering the top or the inside of this mesh container, so these 3-centimeter fish can swim freely all the way to the deep bottom.
Which completely changes the dynamic between the observer and the observed.
So what does this all mean? Because to me, it points out this hilarious contradiction. Aang is obsessed with these fish. Aang desperately wants to see the blue eye and hear the croak, but then puts them in a deep, netless pond where they can instantly hide at the bottom and become invisible. It's like, I don't know, setting up a hidden trail camera in the woods instead of just going to the zoo. Why make observing them so incredibly difficult when observation is the whole point of the hobby?
This raises an important question about the balance between control and nature. Aang realized the zoo approach just doesn't work here. Moving from the clinical glass box to the outdoor mesh container is a huge philosophical shift.
How do you mean?
Look at the language Aang used for the first attempt. Evaluation purposes. That's very clinical, right? It implies putting the animal under a microscope. Aang had perfect visibility, but the control is what killed them in 2 weeks.
The tank gave Aang exactly what Aang wanted, but completely denied the fish what they needed.
Precisely. By moving them outside, Aang is intentionally surrendering control. The outdoor setup means fluctuating natural temperatures, real sunlight and shadows, and the buildup of natural algae and microorganisms that they would naturally graze on.
And most importantly, they get absolute freedom to hide in the deep mesh.
Right, they aren't on display anymore. Aang is sacrificing the visual lure, the observation, hoping that providing absolute freedom is the key to their survival.
So if they feel hidden and secure, their stress levels drop.
Exactly. The footsteps are gone, the hum of the filter is gone, and a stress-free fish is the only kind that has the excess energy to think about courtship.
So Aang realizes you can't force the lure. You can't put them under floodlights and demand they act natural. You have to give them the murky environment they evolved in, and then you just have to step back.
Yeah, it's shifting from being a fish keeper to being a steward of a microhabitat.
That trail camera analogy really holds up then. You put the camera out there and you just hope nature happens when you aren't forcing it. Aang even writes at the end of the post, "Let's see how this goes in the coming weeks."
Which is incredibly suspenseful.
It really is. It's just a bucket of water outside, but Aang is literally leaving them in the dark, betting that nature will succeed where human micromanagement failed.
The parameters are set. 6 tiny fish, an outdoor mesh container, the ghost of a past failure, and just patiently waiting to hear a single croak. It's a brilliant look at how complex our relationship with the natural world is.
Even when that world is no bigger than a laundry basket. When you pull back and look at the whole arc of Aang's journey here, it's amazing how much it applies to life outside of aquatics.
Oh, absolutely.
We started with that universal sting of failure, the dreaded 2-week death window. We looked at the lure of that blue eye, the mechanical genius of a fish snapping its tendons to sing, and we ended up with this really risky outdoor experiment.
It's a powerful lesson in letting go. Sometimes the best way to support an ecosystem is to stop trying to sterilely control it.
And for you listening, whether you're trying to keep a massive aquarium or honestly just trying to keep a single houseplant alive on your desk, this deep dive is a lesson in the persistence you need for any passion.
Yeah, it takes humility to admit when your methods are doing more harm than good.
Exactly. It's about being willing to learn from failure, let go of control, and realize that what looks beautiful to you might be terrifying to the thing you're trying to nurture. Sometimes true dedication means just getting out of the way.
You have to recognize that the lure you're chasing might only happen when you stop demanding to see it.
Which leaves me with one final thought for you to mull over. Just picture that outdoor mesh container sitting outside Aang's home right now. It's deep, it's unfiltered, it's full of shadows.
Totally wild.
Aang has completely surrendered the front row seat. But think about the hidden world at the bottom of that container. In the coming weeks, as the fish feel the safety of the dark, those 6 tiny gouramis might finally stretch their tendons and sing their courtship song.
And that's the dream.
But here's the kicker. What if they do croak? What if they thrive and sing, but they do it deep in the water, completely out of human earshot? It's just a beautiful reminder that sometimes nature's most fascinating moments happen exactly when we stop trying to observe them. They just happen in the dark, purely for themselves.
That is the perfect realization of the lore.
Thanks for diving into the depths with us. We'll see you next time.